Okay, great. Nice to see everyone. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different detour. I'm a human geographer. I'm a social scientist. This talk is about my experience using StoryMaps in my first year geography class, human geography class. And this assignment was developed alongside Professor Susan Wordle, and with a lot of help from Magic and Barbara and all of her team, also the TAs, and especially also our demonstrators in TSE, especially Jenna Snellgrove. So it was really, this assignment was really designed by a whole group of people, and I'm here today just to present a little bit of my perspective on how this contributed to student learning in that class. So the starting point of this presentation or this assignment was thinking about how important fieldwork is to learning. And that fieldwork is a vital teaching and learning tool. And I think all of the presentations here today will probably touch on the importance of being in the field. And students were asked to develop a geographic profile of a small urban area of 2 kilometers in order to think about how space and place affects their understanding of those spaces. So this follows other research on the fieldwork in geography that looks at the positive impact of fieldwork, including improving recall and comprehension, knowledge retention, and skills development. So these are some of the reasons I wanted to try to integrate this in doing this. And the other kind of strong driver is that fieldwork is known for developing resilience among students. And this, as a teacher and a scholar, this is really something that's important to me now, because learning to research independently, to work independently, is really a challenge, I think, for a lot of students these days, given our current situation. Okay, so the importance of fieldwork in geography, as I mentioned, has a whole host of skills and advantages. And in order to kind of initiate students into using ArcGIS Online and StoryMaps, we use what Godlowski calls a scaffolding learning approach. So basically teaching them step by step in a series of workshops how to gain the skills and how to access information. Again, this is a first year class, bringing them into the field of geography. So 3 workshops. We did 3 workshops, and these were spaced approximately 1 each month. In the first workshop, they did some simple kind of investigation on how to think spatially. We led the first workshop, provided them with how to, or led them through looking at different types of maps, including mental maps. So we got them to draw a mental map of their area, compare it with a fellow student, and then kind of move on to the digital platform from there, and look at different ways in which digital storytelling is used in ArcGIS and in StoryMaps. The second and third workshops were more kind of oriented towards the software and tools themselves. So they learned to use and create simple Esri ArcGIS base maps in the second workshop. And in the third workshop, we taught them how to look for primary data. This included things like the sights, the sounds, the feel of the city, and also statistical or historical data. So using census tract data, using Statistics Canada profiles, using Google Earth Pro and fire insurance maps. So the third workshop was the one in which we introduced the actual assignment. And there were 3 different steps to the actual assignment. In the first, students gathered statistical and historical data with the methods and through the sources I just mentioned. This allowed them to kind of develop a perspective of the space they were going to study, the cultural and social landscape, and using that, they identified 5 specific sites on their route that they would study: a skate park, a coffee shop, a school, and thinking about how they could go to these places and explore them in terms of telling a story about that space. So the third part of their research was walking, exploring, right? Getting the sights and sounds and smells, the experiential aspect of that. They were given a series of things to look for, and those included 3 specific categories: context, so the history of the area, the demographics, the income. Of course, they're using stats data to support this. Environmental and social life, so looking at recreation, education, health. And in the third category, looking at transit, housing, and retail. We gave them some space to explore other categories and prompted them to take pictures in their exploration of the space. So the final maps, as Barbara and her team have seen, there were all kinds of maps. I haven't seen them all. I have a bunch of TAs who grade them. So I took a selection of story maps that they provided, and just a few images here on some of the product. And in that story map, they had 5 thematic sections, each with text, images, and if they had photographs. And that was kind of, that story map had an introduction before and a conclusion after. So what I'm really here to talk about is not the maps per se, but more the student experience with this activity. And at the end of this assignment, I have this survey and kind of gather student experiences with using the StoryMaps activity. And there are a few kind of interesting observations from my perspective. The first is how they were prompted to connect with the local landscape. In many cases, they had seen these places many, many times. And it was interesting to say, I was like, whoa, I really hadn't thought about these things. I pass this space every day, which is part of what I wanted to do in this assignment. So it allowed them and kind of forced them into having a more kind of deep appreciation of that space, but also to plant their mental maps onto a story and onto a base map. So as a geographer, I took special happiness in them noting that they were able to notice patterns and map them out. They gained significant technical and research skills according to the students. It enhanced their comfort level around using these tools. It allowed them to use photography to build a story of place independently and to familiarize themselves with spatialized data and processed data. They also mentioned how this made their learning more enjoyable. So for me, I think in a context of a first-year human geography class, this is before they've taken Raul's courses, right? They haven't yet been initiated to the real world of GIS. It was interesting for me to see how they responded to that. And the final comment I want to make in terms of a take-home of what they learned is that they were able to develop a geographic imagination. Right? This is like I'm training them to think like geographers, and I want them to learn those tools. And so comments like learning to see the landscape with a fresh set of eyes, feeling connected to place, and wanting to explore spaces in the future were some of the kind of interesting perspectives that I found from their reactions. And perhaps it is this idea of thinking about space with a fresh set of eyes And to future applications, some of them mentioned that they would use this in their teaching in the future, were some of the kind of things that stuck out in terms of their comments. So lots of people here to thank who participated in this. And a particular shout out to the staff at Magic. Jenna pointed out how central and crucial they were to troubleshooting for us. And because I'm not able to help them with any of those technical details. So a real thanks to Magic for that.